So to get started on this project, I'm going to be taking the paint box yarn. This is a lightweight 3 yarn. It is 100% acrylic, and the hook size that I'm going to be using is a 4.5mm hook. So this project, I end up using 2 balls of yarn. So this is 302 yards per skein. And you use one full one for the onesie, and then you need an additional one for the bat wings and the hat. So just so you know. And I'm also going to be taking a slightly smaller size hook. This is a 4mm hook, and I'm just going to be using this for the edging around the neckline. It's optional, but I like the neckline to be a little bit tighter, so I am going to be switching hooks, but the majority of the work is going to be done with the 4.5mm hook. Also, just so you know, the size that I'm making in this tutorial is going to be a 0 through 3 month size. So the pattern will be written out on my blog, and the pattern itself for the 0 to 3 months and also the 6 month size are exactly the same, except for the 0 to 3 months you're using a lightweight yarn and a 4.5mm hook, and for the 6 months you're going to use a slightly larger size yarn and a 6mm hook. So that's kind of nice about this project, but if you want to see the written pattern, it is on my blog, and that will be linked down below. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to complete the entire onesie, and in the second video will be how to do the bat wings and the hat. If you wanted to just make a plain onesie and not do the bat costume, you could just use this tutorial for that. But yeah, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So to begin, you're just going to make a slip knot, and you're going to chain a total of 13. So once you have a chain of 13, I'm going to be placing my hook in that second chain from the hook. And I'm going to be placing a single crochet. So I'm just going to yarn over, pull through. You have 2 loops left on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2. That is a single crochet. I'm just going to go back through every chain in this row, placing 1 single crochet per chain. So now I've reached the end of the row with single crochets in every chain. I'm just going to chain 1. Turn over the work. Row 2, you're going to be placing 1 single crochet in each chain. So that very first chain that is connected to that chain 1 space, I'm going to be placing my hook through that. That is the first chain of the row. That's where I'm placing my first single crochet. Then I'm just going back through every chain, placing 1 single crochet per chain. So I've made it to the end of the row. I'm just going to chain 1. Turn over my work, row 3, that very first chain of the row that is connected to the chain 1, I am going to be placing a total of 2 single crochet through that chain. So that is an increased chain, and I have 2 single crochet through that very first chain. Continuing the remainder of this row, placing 1 single crochet in each chain until I reach the very last chain. So now I'm at the end of the row. I have 1 chain left. Through this very last chain of the row, I am also going to be placing a total of 2 single crochets through this chain. So this is going to be an increase, and at the end of this row, you should have a total of 18 chains. So for the next row, I'm going to chain 1, flip over my work, and then place 1 single crochet in each chain. So going through that very first chain that's connected to the chain 1, that is the first chain of the row. Then just continue down, placing 1 single crochet in each chain. So now I'm at the end of this row, and I'm going to chain 1, flip over the work, and so now I'm on row 5. So for rows 5 and 6, you're going to repeat rows 3 and 4. So for row 5, you are going to increase on that very first chain. So you're going to place 2 single crochet through that chain. Continue with 1 single crochet in each chain until that very last chain where you increase 2 single crochets in the last chain. Then row 6, you chain 1, flip over the work with 1 single crochet per chain. So I'm going to finish rows 5 and 6 and come back. So now I'm completed with rows 5 and 6. For rows 7 and 8, you are also going to be repeating rows 3 and 4. So chain 1, flip over your work. Row 7 is going to be the increase, 2 single crochets on the first chain, 2 single crochets on the last chain. Row 8 is just a regular row. So I'm going to repeat rows 3 and 4 for rows 7 and 8. So now I've completed rows 7 and 8. For rows 9 and 10, again, you're going to be doing the same thing, repeating the pattern for row 3 and 4. So chain 1, flip over your work, you're going to increase on row 9 with 2 single crochet in the first chain and 2 single crochet in the last chain. 1 single crochet per chain. And then row 10 is just a plain row of 1 single crochet per chain. So again, repeating rows 3 and 4. I'm going to finish rows 9 and 10 and come back. So I've finished rows 9 and 10. So you're going to be repeating rows 3 and 4 a total of 5 more times. So you're going to be repeating rows 3 and 4 until you reach rows 19 and 20. That is going to be the last sequence of this pattern that you are going to be repeating. If you guys are kind of a little bit confused, just please go to my blog and look at the written pattern. It's just so repetitive to come back every 2 rows and tell you it's the same pattern. So you're going to be repeating row 3 and 4 a total of 5 more times until you are at row 20. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Come back once I'm at row 20. So now I've finished those additional 5 sequences. I have just finished row 20. You should have a total of 30 stitches in your row. So for the beginning of row 21, again, just chain 1, flip over your work. And now for the next 40 rows, you're just going to be placing regular single crochets. So that's 1 single crochet per chain for the next 40 rows. So you're no longer increasing, we're just going to be doing a straightaway to finish off the back of the onesie. And then I'll come back once I'm finished with these 40 rows and show you how to do the armholes. So now I've completed the 40 rows of basic single crochet. So to begin on that first row of the armhole shaping, I'm just going to flip over the work. I'm not going to chain 1. I'm going to place my hook through that very first chain, yarn over, pull through, and I'm going to continue this loop through that second loop on my hook. Then I'm going to go through that very next chain with my hook, yarn over, pull through, continue that same loop through the second loop on the hook. So I will have placed 2 slip stitches in the very first 2 chains. Then I'm going to chain 1, go into that third chain, placing a single crochet as usual. So I'm going to be placing 1 single crochet through each chain of this row, but I'm going to leave the last 2 chains of this row unworked. So now I've reached the end of that row. I have 2 chains left in the row. I am not going to be placing any single crochets through them, so I'm just going to leave them as they are. So I'm going to begin the next row by chaining 1, flipping over my work, and then I'm just going to be placing a single crochet in each chain of this row. So beginning on that very first chain that's connected to the chain 1, going to be placing 1 single crochet and then 1 single crochet in each chain of this row. So now I've completed the end of row 2 of the arm shaping portion. So for rows 3 through 11, you're going to be doing the same exact thing. So I'm just going to be chaining 1, flipping over the work, and then placing 1 single crochet in each chain. So just continue this, placing 1 single crochet in each chain through rows 3 through 11. So I'm going to come back once I've completed up to row 11 of the arm shaping portion. So now I've finished through the 11th row of the arm cutout portion. So now for row 12, I'm just going to chain 1, flip over the work, and then place 1 single crochet in each of the first 7 chains. So now I have 1 single crochet in each of the first 7 chains. I'm going to leave the remainder of the row unworked. And I'm just going to be working up this shoulder portion. Again, on the next row, I'm just going to chain 1, flip over the work, and then I'm going to single crochet together the first 2 chains. So I'm going to be placing my hook through that very first chain that's connected to the chain 1. Yarn over, pull through. I'll have 2 on my hook. Then I'm going to go directly into the chain after. Yarn over, pull through. So once you have 3 on your hook, then just yarn over, pull through all 3. So then I'm just going to go into the very next chain, placing 1 single crochet, then continue placing 1 single crochet in each chain until the end of the row. So now I'm at the end, I'm going to chain 1, flip over the work, and then I'm just going to be placing 1 single crochet in each chain until I reach the end of this little shoulder portion. So now I'm at the end of the row, I'm just going to chain 1 and repeat row 13. So I'm just going to be single crocheting together the first 2 chains of this row. Then I'm gonna go in with 1 single crochet in each chain until the end of the row. Now I'm at the end of the row, I'm just going to chain 1, flip over the work, then I'm just going to be doing 3 rows of just plain single crochet, 1 single crochet in each chain, and that's for the next 3 rows. So now that I'm finished with that, so I'm just going to chain 1 and do 1 more row. So I just want to make sure that my hook ends up back towards the outer part of the arm. I'm going to cut and fasten that off, and I'm going to reattach onto the other side, and I'm going to repeat from row 12. So I'm going to do the same exact sequence on the opposite side. So now I have finished the opposite side. I just cut and fasten that off. So we are completely done with the back portion of the onesie. So now I'm just going to get started on the front side. So I'm just going to make a slip knot, and this initial chain is only going to be 11. So the back side is a starting chain of 13, the front side is a starting chain of 11. So once I have the chain of 11, I'm going to be placing my hook in that second chain from where I'm at right now, placing a single crochet and then 1 single crochet in each chain for the remainder of this row. So now that I'm at the end of the row, I'm going to chain 1, flip over the work, and I'm going to be placing an increase in that very first chain of the row. I'm going to place 2 single crochets through the very first chain, and then 1 single crochet in each chain until I reach the last chain of this row, where I'm also going to increase, placing 2 single crochets through the last chain. So now I'm at the end of the row, I have 2 single crochets through that very last chain. I'm going to chain 1, flip over the work. Row 3 is just going to be 1 single crochet in each chain of this row. So now I've reached the end of the row, I'm going to chain 1 and begin on rows 4 and 5. So I've chained 1 and flipped over my work. So now you are going to be repeating rows 2 and 3 a total of 5 times. So this will be row 4 where I increase, row 5 will be just a regular row of single crochet, and then I'm going to repeat that sequence for the second time, and a third time, fourth time, fifth time. So I'm going to come back once I've finished with the next 10 rows. So now I've completed the row 2, 3 sequence a total of 5 times. I will be on row 14 now. So for row 14, I'm going to flip over the work, and then I'm going to chain a total of 6. Once I have chained off 6, I'm going to place my hook through that very first chain of the chain 6 I just made, placing 1 single crochet, and then I'm going to be placing 1 single crochet in every chain, going back down along, then just continuing onto the bulk of the work, placing 1 single crochet in each chain until I reach the end of the row. So now I've reached the end of the row. So once I'm at the end, I'm going to chain off a total of 6. Then flip over the work, placing 1 single crochet in each chain, going back down. So again, I'm just going to be placing my hook through that very first chain off the chain 6 that I just created, and then continue placing 1 single crochet in each chain. So I'm going to continue placing 1 single crochet all the way to the end of the row. Now I reach the end of the row, I'm just going to be chaining 1, flipping over the work, and then I'm going to be completing a total of 40 rows of just even single crochet. So 1 single crochet in each chain for the next 40 rows. So now I've finished with the 40 rows. I'm going to begin on the armhole shaping. So this is the same exact pattern that you use for the back. So just to save time, I'm not going to go over it, but it's the pattern where you start with slip stitching in the first 2 chains and then creating the armhole cutouts and then the shoulder piece. So I'm going to do the same exact thing that I just did for this. So I'm just going to go ahead and finish this section on the front. So now I've completed the front portion and the back portion of the one piece. I'm going to get started on the neckline. So I'm just going to reattach my yarn on the very corner of one of the inside neckline. So for the neckline, I am going to be taking a slightly smaller size hook. This is a 4mm hook, and I have just double knotted it to the very corner of one of the sides of the neckline. We are going to be working on the front and the back pieces separately because we're going to connect the tops of the shoulders together with either a button or those clasps to be able to open it and close it so that you could fit your baby's head around the neckline. So I'm going to be working on one side first. I'm just going to yarn over, pull through, and then I'm going to get started just placing single crochets along the edge, so there's not going to be spaces where you can exactly know where to place it. You don't want it to be too tight or too loose. You just want to be placing them kind of evenly apart going along the neckline. So now I've made my way down to the bottom of the neckline. There are chains, so I'm just going to be placing 1 single crochet in each chain, then making my way back up to the other side. So now I made my way to the top of the opposite side of the shoulder. I'm just going to chain 1, flip over the work, and I'm going to be doing a total of 2 more rows of single crochets going along the neckline. So just place 2 more rows of basic single crochet, 1 single crochet in each chain. I'm going to skip through this and come back once I've finished. So now I've finished with the 3rd row. I'm just going to cut this and fasten it off and then repeat that same process to the neckline on the opposite side of the onesie. So now I have both necklines completed and fastened off. I'm going to reattach my yarn to the bottom of the armpit, and I'm going to be single crocheting both sides of the onesie together all the way down to the end, leaving the leg hole. I'll connect my yarn with a double knot on the corners of the armpits. So I've yarned over and brought up the yarn, so I'm just going to chain 1 and then get started going through the front and the back of the onesie at the same time, yarning over, pull through, placing single crochets. Evenly space out the single crochets so that it's not too tight or too loose, and just make your way down. So I've made my way all the way down to the top of the hip. So just so you see, the chain 6 off of the front of the onesie should line up perfectly with the top of the hip on the back of the onesie, and that is where I'm going to stop. I'm just going to cut the excess yarn and fasten that off. I'm going to reattach it to the other corner side of the armpit and do the same thing. Now I've made my way to the bottom of the top of the hip on the opposite side. I'm not going to fasten this off yet. I'm just going to work my way around, making a edging along the leg holes, but I'm just going to work off onto the back side of the one, placing single crochets evenly along the bottom, and then I'm going to work across the bottom portion as well. We're not going to be crocheting these together. We're going to be sewing a clasp onto them as well, but I'm just going to finish the edging off along the tops of these as well, making my way all the way around the other leg hole and then back around to where I'm beginning. So I've made my way back to where I originally started the row. I'm just going to do 1 row of that, and that finishes off the edging for the leg. I'm just going to pick a random chain at the very beginning. I'm going to slip stitch that, cut off the excess and fasten that off. So now you should have the bottom edged off, as well as the sides that are closed and the neckline edged off. So now I'm just going to flip this inside out, and then I'm going to begin on the sleeve. To begin on the sleeves, I'm going to take some pins and pin down the top. So I have the onesie facing towards the front. I'm going to overlap it so the back of the shoulder goes inside, the top of the shoulder goes outside. You're only going to want to go in about 2 chains on either side, front and back. I'm just going to place a pin so that I can sew in the snaps later. To get started on the sleeve, I'm just going to flip over to the side, starting on one armhole. I'm going to reattach my yarn to the very seam line of the underarm. I'm going to yarn over, pull through to bring up the yarn, and then I'm going to begin on the sleeve. So I'm just going to chain 1 to begin the first row. Then I'm going to be evenly placing a total of 32 single crochets along the perimeter of the armhole. So just do your best to fit in 32 single crochets. So once you reach the top of the shoulder, you are going to be crocheting the top and the bottom portion together. So you are going to be crocheting that close to complete the armhole. This part will remain open, which we will sew a clasp in later, but yes, you are crocheting the top 2 pieces together on the perimeter of the armhole. So now I finished the initial round of single crochets around the shoulder. I have a total of 32 chains. It did take me a few tries. I had to unravel it a few times to tighten it up a little bit and make sure I have 32 chains, but it's not impossible. So I had been using this 4mm hook that I had been using for the edging to do the initial round, but now I'm going to switch back to the slightly larger hook, the same hook that I used for the whole entire body. So this is just the 4.5 hook. I'm going to be chaining 1 to begin the next round. So for this first or the second round of the row, I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm just going to go right into the very first chain. I'm going to place 1 single crochet and then just go around placing 1 single crochet per chain. So now I've finished round 2. I'm back to the underseam. To begin round 3, I'm just going to chain 1, and then I'm going to turn the work, so I'm going to be working the opposite direction. I'm just going to be placing 1 single crochet in each chain. So I finished with round 3. I'm back to the underarm seam. So for round 4, I'm going to chain 1 and turn the work again, so I'm going to be working the opposite direction. And I'm going to place a decrease in those first 2 chains of the row. So I'm just going to go right through that very first chain, yarn over, pull through, go right through the next chain, yarn over, pull through, then pull through all 3 loops on the hook to decrease that first chain of the row. Then I'm going to place 1 single crochet in each chain as usual, but I'm going to stop 2 chains of the last row and place 1 more decrease. So you're going to have a decrease in the first 2 chains and a decrease in the last 2 chains. At the end of this row, you'll have a total of 30 chains. So now I'm back to almost the end of the row. I'm just going to be placing my last decrease. So I'm going through that last chain of the round beneath it, yarn over, pull through, and that very first chain of the round, yarn over, pull through, 3 left on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. So then to begin on the next 2 rounds, I'm just going to be placing 2 rounds of just regular single crochet, 1 single crochet in each chain, chaining 1 and turning before each chain. So for rounds 5 and 6, I'm going to just be doing a basic row of single crochet, chaining 1 at the beginning of each round, and then making sure you're turning your work at the beginning of each round as well. So now that I've reached the end of the round, I'm just going to put my hook through that very first chain of the beginning of the round, join that together with a slip stitch, chain 1, turn my work, and begin on the next round. So now I've completed the 2 rounds of plain single crochet. I have connected the end of my row together with a slip stitch, and now I'm going to begin on the next sequence. So to begin on the next sequence, you're going to be repeating rounds 4 through 6 a total of 4 times. So to begin on the next sequence, you are going to chain 1, flip the work, then you're going to be placing a decrease in the first 2 chains, 1 single crochet per chain, and in the last 2 chains also a decrease, then slip stitch the row together, chain 1, turn your work, and then do 2 rows of basic single crochet, but make sure you are flipping sides every row. So this is the beginning of the next sequence. I'm going to decrease in that first 2 chains, place 1 single crochet per chain, decrease in the last 2 chains. Then I'm going to be doing 2 regular rows of single crochet, and that completes 1 sequence. So you're going to be repeating rows 4 through 6 a total of 4 times. So just go ahead and finish all of those sequences, and I will come back once I'm finished. So now I've finished through round 18. You should have a total of 22 stitches on your round. So now to begin on the next 2 rounds, I'm going to be chaining 1, and then I'm going to be doing 2 rounds of just basic single crochet, 1 single crochet in each chain. So now I've finished those 2 additional rounds of plain single crochet, no decrease. Round 21, I'm going to chain 1, flip the work, and then this is going to be my last round of decrease for the sleeve. So I'm going to decrease in that first 2 chains and the last 2 chains of the row. The remainder of the row just has 1 single crochet per chain. So now I've finished with round 21. You should have a total of 20 chains in this round. Now to complete the sleeve, you're just going to be doing basic rows of single crochet. So you're going to do a total of 14 rows, making sure you're connecting each row together with a slip stitch, and you're turning the work after each row. So now I've finished with the additional 14 rows on the sleeve. So the sleeve is finished. I'm just gonna cut off the excess yarn and fasten that off, so then I can weave that in later. So you're just gonna repeat this same exact process on the other side. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that and come back once I finish with the second sleeve.